Hi everybody, welcome to Whiteboard Wednesday. My name's Rónán and I'm the Business Studies teacher here at the Academy of Education. So I'm going to talk to you guys about a couple of things today. It's mainly really what units to focus on for your course, how to manage your time in the daily exam, and also just a bit of insight with the marking scheme. The first thing really with business is that it's such a wide course, students have lots to cover and they can get overwhelmed by the amount they need to do. And what I find sometimes the students will misdirect their time in terms of studying and they'll focus on the wrong units. So your priority, no matter what, you need to know inside out, of course, are going to be units 1, 2 and 3 because they're your ABQ. Right, now at the start, if you're looking at, if you went into the last year, the ABQ came up in your Leaving Cert, it was 2014. So if you look at that year, and imagine you went into your Leaving Cert and you only knew units 1, 2 and 3, you'd be covered for 3 short questions here, you'd be covered for all of the ABQ, and you'd be covered for 2 long questions. If you split them up in terms of marks, you'd have been covered for 30 marks here to short questions, 80 marks here for your ABQ, and you cover 120 marks there because that's 2 long questions at 60 marks each. When you add that up, that gives you 230 marks out of 400, which is 57% of your paper. So the first thing is, if you're looking at it like that, 3 units out of 7 will be broken down to 57% of the paper. So that's the priority. So everyone needs to know that inside out. The last thing as well, I'd be stressing on that, is that you don't have a choice. Remember, with your ABQ, it's a compulsory question. You have to do it in units 1, 2 and 3. So you need to be rootless there, you need to cover that inside out. When you're moving on, when you're confident with how you're fixing units 1, 2 and 3, my advice then would be to move on and work on units 4 and 5, right? But again, you prioritise, and only once you're happy with units 1, 2 and 3, and you've got that up to speed, you move on then to units 4 and 5. If you covered units 1 to 5 in your Leaving Cert perfectly last year came up in the ABQ, going back again to 2014, you'd have been covered for 7 short questions, which would have been 70 marks, you've been covered for all of the ABQ, and you've been covered for all your long questions, which is 240 marks. When you add that up there, you've got 390 marks out of 400, which is 97% of your paper. And so if you'd have left out units 6 and 7, but you knew units 1 to 5 inside out, you've been covered for 97% of your grade. The reason this is really, really important is that that's where you need to be prioritising now. So study smart with this exam, and if I was in your position, you can get away to some extent, not focusing much on units 6 and 7 and put that time into units 1 to 5. The problem is that students cover units 1 to 7 to an average standard, and if they do that, they get an average grade. Where you prioritise these units and know them inside out in the daily exam, your marks are going to go up. One last thing I would stress on that, and that's again, this is especially important for students who are aiming for H1, my advice would be that's when you need to be moving on to the unit 6 and 7, because of course then you're going to give yourself a better option in the daily exam and you're going to cover yourself a lot more in the short questions, okay? So do be conscious of that on the daily exam. There is a danger that a couple of the short questions, a couple more of them could pop up in unit 6 and 7, and that will leave you guys a bit caught out. So what I'd be prioritising is push, of course, units 1 to 5, and then when you're happy, when you've got that up to speed, if you're pushing on for H1, H2, then you move on to the units 6 and 7. But no matter what, everybody needs to be on to Leaving Cert, knowing those topics inside out. The second thing that I want to stress again is going to be time management, okay? And this is where you need to be very careful in the months coming up to your Leaving Cert, is that students can develop a lot of bad habits when they're doing their homework. And if they're doing their homework for let's say they get a question for 60 marks, or doing their homework for a 60 mark question, they might spend 40 minutes doing that. If you do that, that's counterproductive because you're developing a lot of bad habits, and then you're getting used to going into it on the day of the exam when you've only got 25 minutes to do a question for 60 marks and you're spending 40 minutes, and then you're going to run into issues. So the one big thing I'd always stress, time management is especially going to be important for the long questions. If you see a question coming up for 60 marks, you divide it by 2.5, and that tells you that you've got 24 minutes to do that question. That's what I'd be looking at there. So you've got, remember, 60 mark question, 24 minutes. You can round it off to 25, and I'll include a time management plan for the daily exam in the PDF document with this video, but that's what I'd be stressing as well. The big issue I found in the Leaving Cert with students is that they run out of time in the day and they don't get the topics finished. Okay, so now we're going to look at time management. This is a major issue of business, and what I find in the daily exam is students go into in on the day and they don't really have a proper strategy, and that's going to cost them a lot of marks. The first thing you need to do always when you're looking at your business exam is map out your plan going into it. So the first thing I'll always stress to students is, on the daily exam, I'll be marking these times because they're the times you want to be finished with each section. So you've got like all these little jobs to do. And it's all, I know there's a lot up here on the board, so it'll all be included in the PDF form that you'll get with this video. But the first thing I'll always be stressing is your business exam is going to take 3 hours. So what you want to do at the start of the exam, when you walk in the day of the exam, at 9:30, for the first 5 minutes, you read out the paper. Now, this is going to be the 5 most important minutes of the whole exam. What you want to do when you're reading over the paper is you want to go through it and find out all the key words in the questions you're going to be doing. So make sure you spot the words like discuss. Remember, if you see the word discuss, you have to build your answer using paragraphs, okay? You're not allowed to put in any headings or titles. It's paragraphs only if you see discuss. Other words to look out would be the word illustrate. Illustrate means they want you to explain your answer using an example. Evaluate at the end means you should give your own opinion or an insight into the question. So they're the 3 big words I'll be looking out for: illustrate, discuss, and evaluate. So when you open up the exam, first 5 minutes, go through the paper, highlight those key words, draw a box around them, draw arrows into them, be ruthless with it, make sure you don't miss those words, right? The second thing you want to do when you're done with those 5 minutes, and I really have to stress at the start, even though it's with my 6th years and they're doing the mocks here, all the H1 students, all the really, really driven students, they're going in with a plan. They're not panicking. They're not just opening the script and writing blindly. They're sitting down, they're organising themselves because they know they're going to have 3 hours to get through the whole exam. So they're not panicking. That's a big thing I'd stress, right? Then you move on to your short questions. You're going to have half an hour to do your short questions, 10 short questions, 3 minutes each one roughly, and you'll finish your short questions by 10:05. Then you move on to your ABQ. You give yourself 40 minutes for the ABQ. Time management of the ABQ is quite straightforward. It's 80 marks and you've got 40 minutes. So if you're looking at a question for 30 marks, you divide it by 2 and that tells you roughly 15 minutes to spend on that question, okay? So that's a big thing, but always be marking, and this is a really big time that I'd be highlighting, is that you need to be done with your ABQ by 11:15, okay? So 10:45, you've done your short questions and you've done your ABQ. So the next thing then, so you've finished your ABQ, the next thing you want to do is you start on your long questions. Now, a really, really important thing to look out for, and it goes back to what I was saying at the start with the time management, is prepare yourself. When you're looking at when you open up the paper, you want to look out for questions on the break-even chart and on accounting. And my advice would be, if I saw a question break-even chart and I was going to go for it, I'd do it at the very beginning. I'd do it as my first long question. The reason for that, and that's very important, is that if you leave it until the end, and if you're doing a break-even chart and you've only got 10 minutes left, if the question goes wrong, there's not much you can do. You can't afford to jump over and do a different question because you've no time left. And you want to prepare yourself for the worst case scenario on the day of the exam if you're stressed. If you're doing a break-even chart, it doesn't work out, or if you're doing a accounting question or something and the ratios aren't working, you at least can jump around, you can move, you can switch to a different question, but you're putting yourself in a much better position if you do that early on. A very, very common mistake that happened in 2016 with students was they were coming to the end of the exam and a lot of them were doing question 6 as their last question. Now what happened there was they started off and they did the question on product development and they spent about 5 or 6 minutes there doing that, and then they moved on to the break-even chart. A lot of them got that wrong, and a lot of them struggled in the break-even chart. Now they were in a very bad position because they had nowhere else they could go. They only had 10, 15 minutes left in the exam and they basically run out of time, so they had nothing else to do. So what I would do, if I open up Leaving Cert paper, I'd look out for the break-even chart. I'd spot it there. I'd say, right, question 6, break-even chart. But what I do even before that is, I would do it first. Okay, so I'd do the break-even chart question first. I wouldn't even do the product development one. I'd start and I'd do the break-even chart question. When I'm happy with that, then I do question 6A for prototype development. So you see what I mean? You open up the paper and you write on one page, like question 6A, prototype development, give it a big heading, but you skip it. Then you do the question, the break-even chart, and then when you're happy that it's right, you jump back and do the prototype development. Why would you do that? Well, the first thing is you're protecting yourself. If the break-even chart doesn't work out, not the worst thing in the world, you've only spent about 5 minutes on it and you can jump on and do another question. The reason all these little things are important is that you want to spot the common mistakes that students make and you want to avoid doing them the day of the exam. The other little thing then is, on each long question, you're giving yourself 25 minutes. So you finish your ABQ at 10:45, 25 minutes to your next long question, done by 11:10, 25 to 12 o'clock, and then 25 past 12. So remind yourself to go through it here again, half an hour for your short questions, 40 minutes for the ABQ, and each long question after that, you give yourself 20 minutes. Then you've got 5 minutes to the end of the exam to go read over the paper. The other little thing would be that if gives yourself a little bit of insurance. Like what I said earlier, if the break-even charge question doesn't work out, you don't need to panic and be like, right, I might have wasted a couple of minutes there, but it's okay, I've got those 5 minutes there as insurance at the end of the exam. What I would stress, if everything's gone according to plan, you finished the paper 5 minutes ago, when you're reading back over the paper, my advice would be to go back over the keywords. Make sure you have discuss, your paragraphs, illustrate, you back them up with examples, and evaluate, you've given your own opinion. And the last key thing that I would stress is double check you've done every part of the exam. It's a very, very common question. Students are rushing over and they jump between questions. They can leave out some tiny parts of a paper. And in general, one little other thing I want to stress is make sure your paper is very, very well laid out for the examiner. Get them on side, make it very clear for them, and the better your paper is laid out, the less chance there is of you missing questions. So make sure it's always very structured, like question 6A part 1, 6B part 2, all that stuff. Label it very, very clearly for the examiner. They're the main things that I would be stressing in that. So that's it there. I hope you found that useful. Thanks for watching Whiteboard Wednesday. And if you want to know more about our weekly grinds or Easter courses, just get in contact with the school.